Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, our mission is, well, to pull back the curtain on someone you probably think you know, Samson, the super strong judge of Israel. But forget maybe the Sunday school pictures for a minute. We're really diving into the book of Judges today to look at something specific, maybe surprising. Not his hair, actually, but how he used his eyes.
Right.
You know, the basics, right? He's this almost unbelievable physical specimen, like an ancient superhero, killing armies, ripping lions apart, just raw superhuman strength.
Yeah, the stories are incredible.
But the sources we've looked at, they paint a really different picture underneath. There's this huge paradox. Unlike, say, the heroes we tend to celebrate, Samson's life is just full of personal failure, kind of recklessness.
Yeah, bad choices.
And honestly, a pretty pathetic end for someone supposedly so powerful. And that gap, between his potential and how he actually lived, the sources say that points to the real focus.
Which isn't Samson himself as the hero.
Exactly. It's about the faithfulness of the real hero in the story, God.
That's the crucial thing to grasp right from the start. Samson was born with this clear divine purpose. God set him apart to start delivering Israel from the Philistines.
A Nazarite from birth.
Right, set apart, blessed with this incredible strength. You see it right away in Judges 13 and 14. But his path, it was never straight, was it?
Yeah.
His immense power was constantly undermined by his own, let's just say, poor judgment. And the real tragedy, the lesson here, is why. His choices were almost always driven by what looked good, what was immediately appealing.
Not by his calling or his covenant.
Precisely.
But
Not by what was right or holy.
Okay, so to get why he kept making these choices, we need the backdrop, right? The time period.
Absolutely. You have to understand the historical setting. Samson's story comes near the tail end of the book of Judges. And that era, it was just total chaos.
Spiritually adrift.
Completely. A real low point for Israel. Forgetting God, no political unity, moral decay everywhere. It's a bleak picture.
And there's a phrase that kind of sums it all up.
There is. Our sources really highlight this. It's repeated right at the very end of the book, almost like the final verdict on the whole period.
Okay, what is it?
Everyone did what was right in their own eyes.
Wow. Okay.
That phrase, right in their own eyes, that's the core problem we're diving into. It's about the danger of self-rule, where your own limited, flawed perspective just overrides everything else. God's law, wisdom, common sense.
And what's wild is how quickly you see that national problem show up in Samson, personally.
Immediately.
Like the first big choice he makes, kind of stepping out on his own, it's about wanting to marry a Philistine woman, an enemy.
Right. No checking with God, no asking the priest.
He just goes to his parents and says, and this is the quote, isn't it? She is right in my eyes.
Exactly that.
But it's a direct echo, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
like he personally adopted the exact mindset that was tearing the nation apart.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
He makes this huge, life-altering decision based purely on what looked good to him in that moment. Instant attraction, personal judgment wins out.
Completely ignoring what was actually good or holy, or even just wise for his future and his mission.
Totally. And this is where digging into the original language, the Hebrew, really adds another layer. It gets specific about sight and perspective.
Right.
We're not just talking about physical vision, like seeing with your eyeballs. It's deeper. It's about comprehension, judgment.
So how does the Hebrew show that?
Well, you got the word ayin. It literally means eye. Simple enough. But in Hebrew thinking, the ayin isn't just the organ. It's like the seat of your perspective. How you see things, how you interpret the world, how you make a judgment.
Okay, so eye means perspective too.
In a way, yes. And then there's the verb ra, which means to see. But again, it covers both physical sight and that deeper sense of understanding, perceiving, or judging something.
So when Samson said she was right in my eyes, using that phrasing.
He was doing more than saying she's pretty. He was making a comprehensive, self-centered judgment. She looks good to me, according to my standards, and that's all that matters. My judgment is final.
Gotcha. So if this way of seeing raw judging based on personal sight was the spiritual poison of the whole era, how quickly did Samson's life unravel once he started living that way? Because when you trace his story with that lens, it looks like a total pattern. Visual fixation leads to disaster.
Oh, the pattern is undeniable. It's almost textbook. The first domino is the Philistine woman, right?
Yeah.
Driven by sight.
Yeah.
But then almost right away, you see more examples. He spots honey in the carcass of lion, something unclean. Breaks purity laws just to grab it because he saw it, wanted it.
Right, Judges 14, he just scoops it up.
Then later, Judges 16, he sees a prostitute in the enemy city of Gaza, just walks right in. Impulse.
Wow.
Every single major mistake, every downfall in his career, it starts with his eyes, seeing something immediately appealing, something sensual, something forbidden, and just going for it.
It really does read like someone totally ruled by impulse. Which brings us to Delilah, of course.
The ultimate example.
He trusted her based entirely on what he saw, right? Her beauty, maybe her charm, whatever manipulation she used.
Even though she gave him blinking red warning signs, 3 times she tries to betray him.
And he still doesn't see it, ironically. He sees her, but not the danger.
Which leads us to a really important point about his strength. It gets confused all the time.
The hair, right. People think the strength was in the hair.
Exactly. Even gets taught that way sometimes. But the sources are clear. The hair was only a symbol. It was the outward sign of his Nazirite vow, his special commitment to God.
Okay, so the hair itself wasn't magic.
No. His actual supernatural strength came directly from the Spirit of the Lord empowering him. When he finally deliberately breaks that vow, the commitment the hair represented by telling Delilah.
Then what happens?
The text says it explicitly. The Lord had departed from him. Poof, strength gone. Not because of a haircut, but because he broke the covenant relationship.
Okay. That makes more sense.
His lifelong addiction to sight, to self-gratification, that led to the broken vow. So his hair wasn't his weakness. His real weakness, the fatal flaw, was his eyes always chasing beauty, danger, fleeting pleasure instead of sticking to God's plan.
Wow. Okay, that really reframes the end of his story then, because the ultimate consequence of living by sight is brutal.
It is.
The Philistines capture him, they bind him, and then they do something that feels just chillingly appropriate, almost like dark poetic justice.
Gouge out his eyes.
The very things that constantly led him astray, physically removed.
And here's where the story takes this incredible turn. It's the central paradox, really. The sources suggest that when Samson lost his physical sight, that's when he finally began to see clearly.
How so?
Being physically blind forced him, maybe for the first time, to rely on something other than his senses, something deeper. He had to turn inward, upward.
Okay, but let's talk about that final prayer. Because, our sources emphasize God's grace, but his prayer still sounds a bit complicated, doesn't it? Is it genuine repentance? Or is it still kind of personal revenge, just, asking God to help this time?
That's a really fair question. And the text doesn't totally shy away from the mixed motives, does it? He does start by asking God to remember him and give him strength for revenge for my 2 eyes. There's definitely that personal element.
Right.
But the key pivot, I think, is in the rest of the prayer in Judges 16. He asks for strength only this once, O God. He wants strength to fulfill his original purpose, which was ultimately about beginning the destruction of the Philistine oppression.
So it's not just revenge.
The sources seem to frame it as a shift. Before, he'd used God's strength for himself, for showing off, for getting out of trouble he caused. Now, finally, broken and blind, he's praying for strength related to the mission he'd abandoned for so long. It's a prayer aimed at purpose, not just personal power or payback.
That change in focus is crucial then.
Absolutely, and the outcome underlines it.
Right, because Samson actually accomplishes more in his death, taking down the entire Philistine leadership in that temple collapse.
Than he did in his whole messy life as a judge. The impact was huge.
So that final act shows, when he couldn't rely on his physical eyes anymore, he started to understand his real calling with his heart.
And it shows that God hadn't given up on him. Even after decades of wandering and failure, God's purpose, God's grace, was still available. He got that one last chance.
Okay, let's pivot now. Let's bring this ancient story, this warning about sight addiction, into our world. Because, wow, does it feel familiar sometimes? Why does Samson's struggle feel so relevant right now?
Because we are absolutely saturated by the visual, aren't we?
Yeah.
We live in a culture that's constantly telling us to trust our eyes, to go after what looks good. We're surrounded by what you might call modern-day Philistine women, things that look incredibly attractive, but hide real danger.
That's a powerful image.
Yeah.
And yeah, the sources argue we're constantly tempted by stuff that looks great on the surface, but is just empty. Or worse.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the whole curated world of social media. It feels like the ultimate expression of doing what's right in your own eyes.
Right. Absolutely. It's a constant stream of filtered lives, manufactured success, perfect-looking relationships.
All designed to appeal visually, promising happiness, validation.
But often just delivering comparison, anxiety, discontent. It's the modern version of Samson's visual trap.
Yeah.
The temptation today isn't necessarily, seeing a prostitute in Gaza. It's about avoiding that spiritual emptiness that comes from basing our worth, our goals, our choices purely on that instant visual hit, that external validation.
And that whole follow your truth idea. It sounds good, empowering even.
It does. But often, what does it really mean in practice? Too often it just translates to follow what looks or feels good to you right now, doesn't it? Regardless of actual truth or integrity or the long-term consequences.
You see it everywhere, don't you?
Yeah.
We chase jobs that look impressive but maybe crush our souls.
Or relationships that look perfect online but are toxic offline.
We get caught up in politics driven by personalities that look strong but lack substance or integrity.
Even spirituality can get shallow. Focused on emotionally charged experiences that look or feel authentic, rather than being grounded in something lasting, something true.
The whole culture seems geared towards the visual, the immediate, the appealing.
And that's why the mirror effect with Samson is so strong. The warning is timeless. When we anchor ourselves only in what we see or what we feel in the moment, we're just repeating the mistakes of Samson's era.
There's that verse from Proverbs, right?
Exactly. The sources bring this up, Proverbs 14.1.
Yeah.
There is a way that seems right to a man, but its end is the way of death.
Wow. It doesn't say the way is wrong initially.
No, it seems right. It looks good, feels compelling, but the destination is destruction. That's the critical choice we all face, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are we going to let the glittering, shifting, visual appeal of our culture dictate our path? Or are we going to try and anchor ourselves in something deeper, something invisible but real?
Living by faith, not by sight.
That's the call. Trusting in what God says is true, even when what we see around us seems to contradict it. It's about choosing a different standard of judgment than just our own eyes.
So wrapping this up, maybe the final lesson from Samson, considering his spectacular failures, is actually quite hopeful.
I think so.
His life shows that even when we mess up badly, even when we repeatedly chase what looks good instead of what is good, ignoring all the warnings, God still sees us. He still wants us. He offers incredible grace.
Like giving Samson that final mission-fulfilling opportunity, redemption was still possible.
Yeah.
So we circle back to that core tension, faith versus sight. The challenge laid out in the sources is just as relevant today as it was thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
For we walk by faith, not by sight. That's 2 Corinthians 5.7.
And Habakkuk 2.4, the righteous shall live by his faith.
It's simple to say, hard to do. Trusting the unseen over the seen, trusting God's perspective over our own flawed A in our own eyes.
Okay, so if Samson's physical blindness was somehow necessary for him to gain true spiritual vision, to finally see his purpose, here's the thought we want to leave you with.
What might you need to willingly lose sight of right now? What mental habits, what digital distractions, what persistent visual temptations are you relying on?
What things that just look appealing need to be turned away from so that you can finally gain clear vision and see your true purpose?